Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me for my little critical thinking activity. I hope class is going well and you're able to start wrapping things up. But we will go ahead and get started. And Andrew, if you don't mind, the cereal box. So my first question is, can you guess what's in the box? I know it says Frosted Mini Wheats, so don't think too hard or too long about this, but make your best guess. Be creative if you'd like, but just give it a minute and shout out a few answers. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to hear you because I'm recording this in advance, but once you think you have really settled into what is in the box and you've got it in your mind, then we will move on. According to Stephen Brookfield in his book, he says that critical thinking happens first when we try to discover the assumptions that influence the way we think and act. So with that in mind, let's eat. Andrew, if you don't mind distributing just a few of the mini wheats to each of the tables so that they can enjoy these delicious minis. They are so scrumptious. I know you'll probably want to. I didn't bring any milk. It's the one thing I forgot. But I'm sure you'll probably want to tear into these right away. So as Andrew distributes those, when you were calling out what you thought was in the box, obviously you probably said mini wheats, and you would be right. You were making an assumption based on what you saw. But sometimes what we see may not be what is actually there. There's nothing wrong, though, with making an assumption based on what you see. But we can't stop there. And that's the thing. With your class, you can do this activity, and whatever is open, whatever they want to scream out, whatever they want to say is in the box is fine. You can direct this in a Socratic seminar method, but obviously kids are going to look at the box and say, hey, there's mini wheats. Then they may know you as a teacher and they may think there's no way there's mini wheats in there. They wouldn't make it that easy. So however you want to divvy that up, or however you want to surprise the kids, you can. But the idea is to get them to make assumptions based on what they see. Now, James Bach, in an article about teaching critical thinking with dog food, said that there are 3 questions that we should ask and that students should ask if they want to critical think. The first is, huh? Number 1, do we understand what is being talked about? Sometimes, before we can begin to think critically about something, we need to understand what is being talked about so that we can even ask the question, do we understand? Now, obviously, with the mini wheats, we understood. We were just asked, what's in the box? So number 2, is it confusing? Well, for us, no, not really. It didn't seem confusing. Till possibly Andrew started pouring out the dog food. Then things became confusing. Or is it vague? Is what you heard vague to you? If it is, then you're still in the huh stage. You might want to get some more understanding before you move on. Then we come to really. Is it factually true? What hard evidence do we have for it? So after we get a grasp of what is going on, now we begin to look for evidence. Is what we're hearing and understanding actually true? And we see this so often in internet fads where we hear something and kids take it to be the Bible because, and we can be guilty of that as well before we actually find out, is it true? But good critical thinkers are going to take it in, make some assumptions, but then begin to find hard factual evidence for it. And then the third step, the third question that they should ask themselves is so why does this matter? To whom does it matter? And how much does this matter? And one thing Brookfield pointed out in his book was about his depression. And that was a question he had to come to grips with, was to whom does this matter? And he had to ask himself, and he had to critically think about his condition and realize that this mattered to him. Even though he often thought that he could just overcome it, he was a man and needed to snap out of it, he had to realize that it does matter. It mattered to him, and it mattered a lot, in order for him to overcome and work through his depression. And so for kids, when they're critically thinking, if they're presented information and they want to know and think critically about it, they need to ask themselves, do I understand? And is it vague or is it confusing? 2, really, does it really matter? Is it factually true? Is there evidence to support this? And then, so why does this matter? Is it a big deal? If it is, then maybe I need to take action, which is Brookfield's last step, is to do something with the information. And so with that in mind, it's just 3 quick questions that students can ask themselves and jot down in any kind of activity about thinking critically. So now let's really eat. Andrew, if you don't mind passing out the Skittles and M&Ms to everybody. I'll try not to do much trickery here so that you can enjoy just a little snack in one of your last classes of the semester. I hope everyone has a great evening, and I'd like to thank Dr. Stockdale for a great class. I have said quite a few times this semester that I wish I'd had this class in my undergrad because I have learned so much about some techniques to teach in my classroom that I can't wait for the upcoming school year to try some of these out and implement them because I see the power of using them in the classroom. I'd also like to say to Sue, who is not moving on with us in the doctorate program, it has been an honor to work with you and an honor to work with each and every one of you guys in this class. And have a great rest of the semester and summer. This is I think I interrupted that last thing. This is Jeremiah Vaillant signing off. Here are my references. First is Brookfield's book. The second one, if you'd like to look it up, is an article called Teaching Critical Thinking with Dog Food, which was found on Edutopia's website.